So we had a steer on Lamed Zayin Amid Beis regarding Reb Shimon. Did Reb Shimon hold Yesh Be'er or Ein Be'er? So our first approach was switch it around. Right, Epuch. He said. Then we said, why do you have to switch it around? Why can't you say that Reb Shimon, who by the Kusi case, by the wine, didn't like Breira? That's by Deraisa, but by Rabbanon, maybe he likes Breira, and he accepts Breira by rabbinic situations. To which we said, well, because this particular Amayra happens to hold the two things are linked. That there's no such difference. If you're into Breira, you're into Breira across the board. If you're not into Breira, you're not into Breira across the board as well. Now we're up to a third approach. So those were two possible approaches. Rava Omar. Rava says, Shani Hasam the Be'inon Rashis Shashireha Nikarit. So we're about 6 lines up from the wide lines on Lamed Zayin Beis. So Rava says that it's different over here, nothing to do with Breira, this issue. The fact that Rabbi Shimon does not like Breira, does not like the halacha in the case of the Kusi, of designating all of that stuff beforehand and then leaving the stuff over, is because at the point of designation, things are unclear. Shani Yosem Devino Rashis Shashira Nikarim. Shum is called Rashis. Rashis means the beginning. If it's a beginning, you got to have something after the beginning to make it clear that was the beginning. Here, you're leaving it for the end. So you're lacking the basic quality. It's not a Breira issue. It's a special Xeris HaKosav that applies to Truma, that it cannot work by Truma. Okay, look at Rashi. He says, Rava Amar, Taima de Reb Shimon b'yayin lav mishum de ein breirahu. This say breira, because he holds a breira, proven from the case of the Tchum we learned yesterday, that he does hold a breira. El mishum de kari rachman l'tshuma reishis, but it's because the Torah called tshuma reishis. Reishis de gantcha v'tiroshcha, michlal shetei muvdeles tshuma mishireha, b'shah shekor lo shem. But rather, the word rashis implies that it should be separated. Truma should be separated from its remainder at the time that you're calling it truma. Shirol Hashem he nearest rashis ve'elu shirah. It should be clear. This is rashis. This is truma, and this is the rest. Well, it's not happening in the case where you bought the wine from the kusin and you're leaving over for the end. Fakert. If anything, it's the last. It's at the end, not at the beginning. So, not going to work for that special reason. Back to the Gemara, Abai says, really? There's such a concept of Truma being called Rashis? According to that logic, if you had 2 pomegranates of Tevel, and you said as follows, if rain falls today, then this one should be Truma against the other one. And if it does not rain today, let this truma be opposite that one. What? So hachinami bein yardu bein lo yardu deim dvar of klum. Are you going to tell me that, well, since the way you designate it is a breira, in a breira type of fashion, and this does require delay in terms of determining whose truma is what, and you said it should be called truma already now. It's not going to become clarified till 10, 12 hours later to determine whether it rained today or whether it didn't rain today. So are you going to tell me the ein b'dvar of klum? Are you going to tell me that that's not counted as a valid separation? And if I tell you, yeah, it's not. I mean, if you want to try to argue that, because I know wherever you can come back at me and say, yeah, who says that it works? And if you're going to argue that, yeah, it does not work, that my rules of rashis demand that case is not a valid case of separation of truma, I'll prove that it can't be. Vatanan, it says in the Mishnah, if you say the truma of this pile, umaisrosov b'tocho, and the maestros are inside of it. Okay, so it's there. I'm separating truma, but I'm not actually physically removing it. So I'm saying it's inside this pile. It's in there. Okay, and so too are the maestros in there. Okay, but I'm not telling you exactly where. I'm not actually physically taking it off and separating from it yet. Okay, truma, yeah, uchumas meiser betocha, or if I have another case where the pile is already meiser, and now the Levi requires to take chumas meiser, and again does the same kind of shtick where he doesn't actually take it, but he says the 10th of the meiser, which I need to give to the kohen, is in there, without clarifying where is it and not having separated it. Reb Shimon Omer Kor Hashem. Shimon says it's a valid. It's a valid designation. So doesn't this prove, Rava, that you're wrong? Doesn't this prove that Reb Shimon, the same Reb Shimon who you want to attribute the position that since Truma is called Rashis, it needs to be clear. Clearly, here you see it doesn't have to be, because Reb Shimon says that designation is valid, even though you have not separated it. It doesn't have that quality of being the beginning with a following, with a remainder, with a leftover. So you see, that you don't need that. Whereas the Rava said, we'll come back and say it's not true. This Mishnah doesn't prove anything. I'll tell you, really, I'm right. You do need a clear separation earlier to qualify it as being called rashis. Sheshani Osam Dika Svivav. It's different over there, because you need Svivav. You have the area around it. When you say the truma is in there, so what you're saying is it's inside the middle of it, but you're leaving the outside clearly not truma. So granted, you don't have it clearly delineated, but there is at least some level of delineation that helps you determine what is truma, what's not, or what could be truma, what's not. So as long as there's some level of, you can say this is definitely the remainder of that, namely the middle is the truma and the remainder is what's outside of the middle, that's good enough to be called rashis. So I can tell you, really, my rashis sword does work. You have not proven it from your Rimon case. Maybe the Rimon case taka does not work, and the Mishnah that seems to support the Rimon case is not a good example, because at least you have the outside rimming the inside to qualify the inside as the rashis and the outside as the remainder. Let's take a look at Rashi. First wide line of Rashi. Come on. Really, he could have just asked straight from the Mishnah. It's like he's going roundabout. Well, Rav, you have to admit to me about this case, and if you want to tell me this case taka doesn't work, then I'll nail you from the Mishnah. So he could have just asked from the Mishnah the Tan Truma Sakri. Ela hilchasa de alma nokat. But rather, Abaye was interested in telling you the halacha. Klema in Basel Lidrosh Barabim Alibd Shimon, if you're going to come and publicly explain and darshan that Reb Shimon holds, you need to have rashis clear, need to be a remainder with a beginning with the remainder. At the Darish Alecha Shelafon of Sheibanim, then you'd have to darshan about this case. So it's like maybe it was a case in point, or it's a case which happens often. So he wanted to clarify the halacha that according to you, this halacha would not work. And I want you to go on record about that. So that's why he decided to point out this halacha as opposed to first just going straight to the Mishnah. So halacha is ein bar of klum. Are you going to tell me hoil b'shatz kriyas Hashem ein a nikar ezu chuma vezu shira? Since at the time of designation it's not clear which one is chuma and which one is its remainder. Dachak abayayin ikarin shira halachazman kihacha, because like by yayin it's only recognizable the leftover after some time, just like over here. Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon says it doesn't work there, and that, right, according to your reasoning, that's why it doesn't work there, and that's why it won't work over here. And that seems to be problematic. Doesn't seem to fit into the mainstream assessment of the halacha. And if you're going to tell me, well, you fight the mainstream and you say taka it won't work because you need this rule of rashis and you need shireha, and this is not shireha. You're going to tell me, and you'll tell me that the Rimon case taka doesn't work. Well, what do you do with the case of the Mishnah, which says betocho be'emtsiuso te truma? So you have this big pile, and you say in the middle of that pile should be truma, kedei shir truma, u'ma'achshav te lahatir sviva, and you want to make it now already truma so that you can start eating what's around it. So you like the crust of the chalus, you want to make the crust edible, and the truma is going to come from the inside, from the part that's not the crust. So you know already, but at least you can have the outside, you can have the crust of the challah, delicious. So maybe you're going to tell me that that doesn't work. But you see, Lamaisa does work. Uchumas Maisa b'teichai. This is case number 2. Milsachriti. This is another case. Don't mix. When you read it, it looks like it's all one case, but Rashi's telling us you have to separate them as 2 different cases. One case of Truman Meiser, and there's another case of Trumas Meiser. Kloimar, meaning to say as follows: O im haya krisha meiser. If you had a pile of meiser of 1/10 of your grain that you're giving to the Levi, Yomar, and the Levi says take trumas meiser shaloi b'teichai, that the trumas meiser should be inside of the pile. Kara shem. It is indeed a valid calling and it's a valid designation. That akshav imachai men loya boy eli isa shal tevel. Okay, now till now, if you ate from it, all you'd have is an isa tevel. Miyata imlocholokolov mishum truma. But now you got a different problem because now it's truma. Because the designation is a valid one. A person eats the whole pile. For sure, you ate truma that was within this pile. The truma samaisa, the 1/10 of the maisa has to go to the kain. That's truma. Umishum maisa sheni chutz yishlayim. And also, you're also going to be chayiv for the maisa sheni that you need to take from it. In the case where you had Maisa Sheni designated from it, that has to go to Yerushalayim, and that's also allowed if you eat Maisa Sheni outside Yerushalayim. And if it became Tumah, so there are not a lot of nafkaminas between whether something is Tevel, something is Truma, and Meiser. So the Mishnah says the designation is valid, and the nafkaminas that result from that kick in. So you, Rav, how do you explain this? If you hold that you have to have rashis and it's got to be clear cut that this is truma, and the remainder is the chulin, how do you do that in this case? And the answer is the ikka svivav shireho nikarin the ihu b'teicha kamar. It is recognizable, and there is a remainder. The remainder is the crust. The remainder is the outside of the grain. That what you piled up, that outside is clearly not part of the inside. So by at least separating the inside from the outside, you've given us where the truma is from and where the truma is not from. Diu betocho, use the word betocho. When you use the word betocho, you mean it's got to be inside. It's not the outside of the watermelon, it's inside of the watermelon. So it's all clear. It's clear enough. Okay, so that's the third approach.
So, Rabbi,
yeah.
in a pile of grain, how do you distinguish the outside from the inside? It's all the same stuff. What do you just go an inch down?
Yeah, I guess so. Anything that you can see.
It's what's visible?
Yeah. You know what? As long as you can go inside, I think that's good enough. All of the grain that is surrounding it that you can see, I assume, is the outside. Everything beyond the skin deep is inside.
When you take Trumas Masters today, the whole thing he says is the north side should be this and the south side should be that. So
yeah, well, it could be right. It could be we don't hold of Rava, but yeah, true. Okay, and that's answer number 3 for Reb Shimon. So we switch them around, we make a split between the Rice and Rabbanon. We say that it's a unique halacha to the case of the to Truma, right? It's unique to the case of Truma, and the Kusi case is Truma. Every other case he would hold of Breira. Okay, or 4. Answer number 4. Vibos Ema, back to the Gemara. 4 lines from the bottom. Vibos Ema Kediktani Taima, or you can say another svar that we threw out very quickly for a second yesterday, and then we just dropped it, but now we're bringing it back. Kediktani Taima, Omru Leiler of Meir. So the Tanoim said to Rav Meir, really, you can designate all that stuff and leave it for the end of the barrel, and you can have all this delicious wine on Shabbos before you actually separate it? That's a little dangerous. What happens if somebody throws a rock, the barrel breaks, and it all falls down, and the wine goes into the earth? What are you going to do now? You didn't take it, and you had a gallon worth of tevel dikabar tanura that you never ultimately separated. That's a disaster. So aren't you afraid of that possible disaster? Yeah, to no, maybe the cask is going to split, and you're going to end up with no wine to ultimately separate. V'dim says that shows the tefillin lafreya, and it comes out retroactively that you were drinking tevel the entire time. So double negative. You're drinking at 7:00 in the morning on Shabbos, and you're drinking tevel too. So Amalehen, he answered back, Likashayivka. Everybody says, when it happens, let's worry about it. I'm not worried it's going to happen. That's a very far-fetched concern. I'm not going to live my life with far-fetched concerns. If it happens, it's all, we'll deal with it. But I'm not worried about it. Okay, so let's just do the Rash. Shivibos Ema Reb Shimon Islay Breira. I'll tell you, really, maybe Reb Shimon does hold a Breira, generally speaking. The Gabayayin de Kosar, and the fact that he did not like this whole approach by the wine from the Kusi to take it by Shabbos time, because he didn't have the kalim with him, so he designated all the stuff, and he said, and basically at the end, when it's all left over, that's when it's going to be taken. It's nothing to do with holding ein breira. We're afraid maybe the keg is going to open up and break before you get to separate it. You're going to end up drinking tevel mafreya. Because granted, when he, after some time, he does separate it, the mata hasha l'chel kohen yesh beira. Okay, you can definitely argue if it actually happens that when you separate it, it gets to the kohen. You can argue, that which the kohen gets now is retroactively that was proven to be shum all along. The mikar b'tochanot nami didei hu mishas kriyas shem. Right, you can argue that this was the Kohen's all along from the very beginning, the chulin shasa, and he drank chulin. So if you ever get to the end game, yes, it would all be fine. Breira would allow you to retroactively clarify that what you gave to the Kohen was there all along as truma. But if the keg breaks, well, the truma, and you never separated truma from it, and it never got to the hands of the kohen. There's never that point where breira could be activated. It has to happen. You can't say, well, since it would have been worked, so no, you got to at least get to the end game. You never got to the end game here of actually giving the kohen the remaining part of the barrel. Now, granted, you gave him the bottom of the barrel, but that's okay. It's still good. Because even at the end, it never got to the point where it was clarified to be truma. You never called it. You never designated it. So that would be a problem if it never got to that point. To which Rav Meir answered, you know what? Okay, when it happens, let's worry about these. So let's all convene a major session at that point. But right now, meaning to say, right now I'm not worried about it. I'm not going to lose sleep over that eventuality. It's not common. The boy mosel the shomer, because if he wants, he can give it over to a shomer. If he wants, he can give it to a shomer. What does that mean? If he wants, he can give it to a shomer. What he can hire a security guard, make sure it doesn't happen. Yeah, that's what it sounds like. I'm not sure. I don't know, how's the security guard going to help if the cracks? Huh? So if it cracks, what he's gonna carry? He'll save some. He'll save some of it. Okay.
That some of it could be the truma.
But I mean, okay. But I hear you. But I mean, that seems that then you should have to. No, if it happens, we'll hire. In other words, you can always hire security guards. Then hire a security guard. Either you're not worried or you are worried. If you're worried, then you should have to hire a security guard. Well, I'm not sure. The boy, you must. I guess it's possible. I don't know.
But you're only thinking that once you just take it out, you can separate the portions out.
But you didn't have the kalim. You didn't have the vessels to separate it.
Security guard is not going to buy anything either because he's not going to have the kalim to put it in like the barrel cracks. If the guard has the kalim, then you got the kalim. If the guard doesn't have the kalim.
Well, he'll take a shirt and he'll put it around the thing and get some. Anyway, okay, I'm not sure exactly what the shomer is going to do, but 1 second. What are ches?
He'll watch it and let you know it cracked.
Ches. Okay, I don't know. Maybe we weren't getting there. Explains it. Okay, fine. So
the concern is that it's not that he has a shomer. It's like just because he could, how does that help? Because he didn't.
Right, exactly.
Just because he could, how does that help?
Right.
In the end, you didn't.
Right, just like, right. I mean, the whole issue was it might happen, and eventually that it might happen, you're stuck. So you're still stuck just because you could. I'm not sure how the migu, right, takes it away from the concern. Okay, but again, but all these cases, it didn't happen, So, okay, let's go back to the Gemara. Ulamai the salak, 2 lines from the bottom. Ulamai the salak adaitin meikara the bidon reishis sheshira nikorin. If you, according to you, Rava, your shot that you said originally at the beginning of today that truma requires it to be called reishis. In order to be called reishis, you need a remainder after the designation. And you didn't have it there in the case of Kusi, might come relate. So if that's the concern, what's this discussion over here? According the Brisa continues with Rav Meir where they're saying to Rav Meir, hey, Shemi Baka, no, aren't you worried? Rav Meir answers back when it's going to happen, like that has no bearing on Rava's svara. So how could Rava make sense out of this discussion, according to him, when the real issue is not Shami Baka Nod, it's about Rashis, that it needs to be called the beginning. And that's the reason why Reb Shimon doesn't buy into this whole plan. So what's this whole discussion? How does he understand this Bryce? Why isn't this Bryce a refutation to Rava? So he says, to which Gemara answers, Hachi Karmelei. This is what the Rabbanon, this is how Rava understands this discussion between Rav Meir and the Chachamim. Hachi Karmelei. L'didan bi'inan reishish shira nikarin. As far as we're concerned, Reb Shimon and Reb Yossi, who didn't buy into it, we don't buy into it for a fundamental reason. That we don't hold, you can take Truma later. Truma's got to be taken now in order for it to be called Rashis. However, L'didach, top of the page, according to you, clearly you don't buy into this svara. I get it. I can respect your position. You don't like this whole Rashis idea, but he had to moda. But let's now come from a practical. You don't like lumdis. Let's talk practicality. He had to moda shami baka noid. Aren't you concerned that maybe this keg is going to break? And then you're going to be drinking retroactively, completely untithed and unseparated wine, drinking the wine or eating the grain, and it's going to be devastating. You're going to be over terrible Easter. And to the attack of the practical aspect of the keg breaking, I'll worry about it. The answer is I'm not worried about it. That's a far-fetched concern. And again, you see halacha that you can have two people look at the exact same situation. One gets very worried, the other one says, it's not a problem, and they're both valid. That's their view of the world, and when it becomes a great rabbi's view of the world, that becomes part of his Torah, and that's the way they go. Okay, so it takes us to the next Mishnah. So Baruch Shem, we finished Breira. Okay, hopefully retroactively we can consider it that we learned it and we got it all straight. Okay, Baruch Hashem. Okay, so
I'm wondering if maybe the loshkiach part is that it's not common, because not only is it not common, but also there's people who give it to a shomer, which makes it even less common.
The language. Okay, I mean it's a little shtuk because.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, the language is a little schwer. The boy. Okay.
No, it's because the loshkiach, the iboy, it's not really that common, because not only is it not common, but also you can give it to shomer, which makes it less common.
I hear, but you have to that some people do give it to the shomer.
Some people do, right?
Right. Okay, it sounds like okay.
What's the shomer?
There's a certain percentage of people have watchmen watching their kegs, so that lowers a percentage of actual situations where the keg is going to break and it's all going to be lost because the shomer is going to save it to some degree.
How's he saving it?
He'll have he'll yarmulke. You have somebody right there when you see the problem. You'll be able to. All you need is a little. You need more than a little bit for mice. You need more, but
exactly. So you could have taken it yourself. If you can have the shomer there and save it, then you yourself could.
No, but you need it to break before. You can't. You don't have a bunch of stuff. Whatever. Okay.
Because you're going to get down to the bottom, and then what's ever left is the gifts to the Levi. So. And you may say, well, but I can't pour it into a separate pan or a pot or something.
Yeah.
Because I don't have one. Now the shomer sees it break, and he sees it break. I mean, like, okay, so it's not a break. He's not going to save enough to.
Well, yeah. I mean, but that's already an emergency. In an emergency, you use your shoe, you use your shirt, you use anything. In an emergency, you just grab something and save enough to get it. You're not going to do that lechatchila, and get yourself all messed up. So, the two different scenarios. One is coming Shabbos, you want to menshach kiddush situations. You want to give your family bar tanura. So you do it with the brera. You do it with this idea, and then if it happens, then you scramble. Okay, whatever. It's doesn't sound like that's what he's saying, but maybe could be.
The shomer has a holster. You don't.
Okay, fine.
Yes, so.
You see Mordechai with his holster on the Friday? That was funny. Okay, next Mishnah. Rabbi Elazar Eimer. Rabbi Elazar says, but it's a good point. You need a shomer over the alcohol. That's something that we can all agree about. Rashi shouldn't be indiscriminate. Okay, Rabbi Elazar Eimer. Rabbi Elazar says, next Mishnah, Yontiv hasamach l'Shabbos. If you have a Yontiv close to Shabbos, so you have a 2-day situation, which we are certainly familiar with. We have 2 days anyway, but let's say in Eretz Yisrael, where you have a Yontif either on a Friday or a Sunday. So if you have a Yontif on a Friday or a Sunday, you're going to have a 2-day situation of Shabbos and Yontif, either Yontif before or Yontif after. Okay, so Rabbi Elazar Eimer, Yontif hasamach Shabbos, bein milfana bein milachreha, whether the Yontif is in front of the Shabbos or the Yontif is after the Shabbos, ma'ariv adam shnei Eruvin. You have to separate 2 Eruvs. The Eimer, not you have to, but a person is able to separate 2 Eruvs. The Eimer, and he can say like this: Eruve berishoin lemizrach. I want my first rishon, my first Eruv to go to the east, because on Yontif I want to hear that Chazan who does an incredible rendition of Hallel, and I cannot miss his Hallel. I got to go to the east. V'shein l'mayriv. But on Shabbos, which already is no longer Yontif, let's say Shavuos was on Friday, and then Shabbos is Shabbos, and there I want to go to the west because they're making a Kiddush, and Shabbos and the Cholent to the west is off the charts. It's Rabbi Samuel's Deluxe. So in that I need to go to the Mayriv. Or Rishon l'Mayriv v'shein l'Mizrach, or the reverse. And the first day I want to go west, and the second day I want to go east. Eruvet b'Rishon u'b'Sheni k'b'Deir. Or you want to say my first day I want my Rishon to my Eruv to work on the first day. On the second day, I want no Eruv at all. So I don't. It isn't like east-west. I want to go east and then nothing. I want to stay at home, which means by being at home, you have a 2,000 amma radius any direction you want to go to. Okay, on the second day, because you haven't made an Eruv on the second day, so you have that advantage. Eruv b'Sheni, or you want the Eruv to kick in on the second day. B'Rishon k'b'nei Iri. Okay, and the first day you want to be like everybody else, everybody else in town. So all of these things are valid. Basically, the key point that he's making, okay, fundamentally is that it's 2 separate days and 2 separate Eruvs and 2 separate options that you have. One day is not connected to the other day. Even though they go back to back, and you go straight from Shabbos to Yontif or Yontif to Shabbos, it does not force you into a one entity problem or a situation. You are allowed to separate them. Okay, that's what? That's Rabbi Elazar. That's a Tanakama. The Chum say, sorry, I don't buy into this. O ma'ariv lurach achas, o ein ma'ariv kolikar. Either you pick one direction and you stick with one direction for both days, or you don't do it at all. O ma'ariv l'shei yomim, o ein ma'ariv kolikar. Either you make the Eruv for 2 days, you don't make the Eruv at all. So Ketzad Yasa. So what should you do? Maybe let's pick up the Rashis till this point, and we'll see about the Ketzad Yasa. So let's do the Rashis. Ma'arv adam shnei Eruvin. Yom hayitzarach yom rishon leilech lekan. Yom shein leilech lekan. If on Friday you got to go to one direction, on the Shabbos you got to go in the other direction. Yochel arv lemizrach l'ma'arv erev yontif rishon. Okay, you can make your erev on in one direction, Erev Yontif Rishon, right before Friday, which is Thursday afternoon before you hit Friday, which is Shavuos. I want to acquire Shvisa right here for tomorrow, for Shavuos. I want to hit at Chazan. And I want to go, and I want to be able to acquire a different Eruv in a different direction to go in the exact opposite direction on Shabbos. They're not one long day. They are 2 separate sanctifications of days. And each day has its own independent ability to acquire shvisa for that particular day. V'chol chad miknalei shvisa le'ezet tzad she'yirtza, and each day you can acquire your abode for the direction you want. Uben hashmoshos the kamal the dehu dekani lo yom beis. And you are able, by Ben Hashmoshos, right by dusk of the first day, you can acquire it for yourself, but it does not acquire it for you automatically on the second day. So he takes the approach that I think we would have thought just naturally. Naturally, we would say it's not Rosh Hashanah. We know is Yom HaRichter. That we know is that's why we have the new suit for the second day and all the shachianus, and it's complicated because it's Yom HaRichter. But every other situation, Shabbos is Shabbos, Yontiv is Yontiv. So so Rabbi Elazar takes, I think, the typical approach that we would think of.
So where's he allowed to go Ben Hashmashas between the 2 days? He's stuck in limbo?
Well, he'd have to wait for Shabbos. Actually, it would depend on when the Erev actually starts. But let's assume if the Erev starts Ben Hashmashos, so Ben Hashmashos is when the Erev would kick in.
That means before Ben Hashmashos for the second day, he has to be back at the house. He can't be if his Eruv is switching from Friday to Shabbos, one's in the west and one's in the east, and he's in the west, and now it's about to switch to the east, he's got to be back home before it switches.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Otherwise,
He's stuck, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, very, very true.
And you can't do something before Ben Hashmashos if it's Yontiv, preparing for the next day.
Well,
Can you do that?
He did this
well,
one before.
we're not.
But you're still having to...
Preparing is another issue.
You have to be back home.
Oh, that's preparing.
Well, you're allowed to be home.
But you're doing it for a purpose.
Well, so I can't go home because I happen to.
No, I'm just saying.
I'm leaving Motzei Shabbos from home, so you can't just happen to be home when Motzei Shabbos hits.
Well, I've
Well,
got to be there at a certain time.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, that's a great chumrah.
Yeah,
we should.
I think I'd cover it.
I'm not sure if I think the chumrah of the month club would take that. That might be the chumrah of the year.
Wait, I missed that. I want to do it.
Okay.
You also have that hat that says, I have my chumras, I have chumras that your chumras haven't heard about yet, or something.
Yeah. Okay. Very just well hears that. I think they might embrace that. Okay. Okay. So
one day.
So
Rosh Hashanah.
right. So that's but right. So the Tanakam Rabbi Elazar hold it's not one day. It's 2 separate days, and therefore I have 2 different options, and I can make an error for each day, and everything is good. Okay. We're next Rashi. Eruvin b'Rishon M'Sheni K'Benairi. Or if you want to say my erev, I want to make an erev on the first day, and the second day I want to be like everybody else. Kloimar, from Loyal you wrote to Leilech Elaba Echad Minatzadim B'Yom Rishon. I only want to go in one direction. I don't have an issue on the second. I don't have anything special on the second day. The second day I want to be like I just want to go to the Hallel. I want to hear his Hallel, and I want to come back and be with in my town on the second day like a regular member of my community. B'Sheni Ein Tzarich Lozos Mitchumo Lo Lakam V'Okan. There's no need. I don't have any need to leave right now in either direction. Then Rotz Lahafsid. I don't want to lose my 2,000 amis option in any direction that we go in. You make the Erev in the direction that you want to go to on the first day, and you say like this: I want this Erev going to the east to be Kona for me, so I can go travel 2,000 amis from the Erev, which is 2,000 amis out of the city limits. But on Shabbos itself, very okay, but on the second day, I want to be like the members of my city where there is no Erev. Or the reverse, if you need to go on the second day, and not on the first, you say, I want, when Ben Hashmashos of Friday afternoon hits after Shavuos, and going into Shabbos, I want this Erev to be Kona for me at that time. But on Friday, on the actual day of Shavuos, I want to be right where I want to be. I'm going to be a regular townsperson, nothing fancy. I don't need any special Eruvei Tchumin, and I only want this to kick in on Friday afternoon. Ben Hashmashos going into Shabbos, so I can go to my Kiddush on Shabbos. Okay. Ma'ariv l'ruach achas l'tzorach shnei yamim. Okay, either you pick east or west, but none of this one day this and one day that situation. It's got to be for 2 days. Or in a marav kolikar. Okay, afilu tzad echad lios be'echam aniyam kibnei iroi. Okay, or you don't do it at all. Even to one side, lios be'echam aniyam kibnei iro, to be like one of the days, like his city person. So basically, you don't have that flexibility. Where's those words? Right, either you do it for one side both days, or you don't do it at all. Even right, you can't have one day like your city and one day to the east. That stuff doesn't work. So when the Chachamim articulated their position, they sort of seemed redundant. Either you do one side or you don't do it all, or you do it for 2 days or you don't do it all. Well, that's the same thing. I mean, 2 days and one side for both days, it's really essentially the same thing. So what are you repeating yourself? So Gemara will get into that. Okay, so let's go back to the Mishnah. So Keitzad Yaseh. Okay, so what do you do? We had this quoted earlier in the Gemara a few blot ago. What should you do in order to facilitate this Erev situation? Because who says you have unlimited challah? I mean, in other words, if you have unlimited challah, you can put one challah here, one challah there, and just do whatever you need. But let's say things are a little bit pressured, and you can't just be varf and chalas around all over the place. So Kesed Yaseh, Molicho Berisho. You take the challah on the first day, you machshechalov, and you are there as dusk hits on Thursday, which is going into Friday, Jewish Friday, which starts Thursday night. So you take it out to the Tchum on the eastern side, where you want to spend Shavuos, you want to be able to go to that Chazan on Friday morning, and then you keep it there through Ben Hashmashos of Thursday night into Friday. The note low, okay, then you take it, ubolo b'sheni, okay, then you bring it on the second day to the other side, machshech alav ochlo, and then you wait for Friday going into Shabbos, and you take it to the other side, and you are machshech alav into Shabbos, and you can eat it. You can make kiddush there.
That's beyond, because you're going 2,000 almost the other direction now. So that's really beyond.
Yeah, but
Can you do that?
Well, again,
It's a weird situation.
Okay, I hear what you're concerned about. Let's see. V'yochel bolo. Then you can eat it, and then you can now go and you can do whatever you want. V'nimsa mistaker balichaso mistaker beruvo. So you benefit in your ability to walk, and you're benefiting in the fact that you can make your erev in both cases. However, okay, so that's the scenario that it all works. Nechab rishon. Okay, if it gets eaten on the first day, Eruvin l'rishon ve'eruvin l'sheni, then the erev only works the first day and not the second day. Rabbi Elazar says, aren't you moted to me that these are two separate sanctities, and why are you making it all into all or nothing? Why can't you separate the days? And we'll see Rashi tomorrow.